Hello, I am Arion.
Prometheus.
We're book zealots, and we're having a Jane Austen tea. I will insert a picture or pictures. Discussing Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Prometheus did not read the book, however,
We did watch the movie.
we did watch the movie. It had been a really long time since we had watched the movie.
3 years? 4 years?
Probably, if not longer than that.
I'm fairly certain we've watched it since we've been here.
Yeah, and I liked it better.
Then.
No. I think I liked it better this time because I had actually read or was in the process. I hadn't finished it yet, had I? So I think I liked it better because I was in the process of reading the book. And obviously the book is better. You wouldn't know. I think Marianne drives me nuts.
Well, she's the worst form of character, my dear. Vapid, unthinking, and immature for her age.
Where were her parents? How? She's 16 years old. Her father passes away. Can you put some in mine too, please? And she behaves very dangerously with Willoughby. And I get she is infatuated. It's probably the first man to pay her any attention, and she just throws caution to the wind. I think you're out of frame. Oh, good. Yes. Okay. So it seems as though she just kind of throws caution to the wind and behaves uncivilized. And Willoughby totally strung her along, just right on the border of not having to make a commitment to her, which just, he's a very bad man. Yeah. And then supposedly, I didn't know I cared for her until I married somebody with 50,000 pounds.
Convenient timing.
Right? And I know we've kind of jumped ahead. For everyone who knows about Sense and Sensibility, we've kind of jumped ahead because let's backtrack and talk about how these girls became in dire straits to begin with. So their father dies. Why do I feel like this is a Disney movie? Everybody's an orphan.
Oh, because we can't have parents making logical, rational decisions for the children, then no story would ever happen.
Yeah, but they still had the mother, even though she didn't discipline them or keep them in line or guide them in any way.
That's what the governor was for. Governess.
There wasn't a governess.
Well, that's just bad parenting.
Okay. The father dies and supposedly leaves money to the son from a different marriage, but on his deathbed tells his son, I want you to give the girls this much money. Guess who doesn't get that much money? And their brother, okay, his wife is a stingy, yes, go ahead.
The father specified a sum of money in the book?
To the son, so that they would be able to have a decent living.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing about the movie, is that the son took advantage of the fact that the father never specified a sum, just that they would take care of them.
Okay, I thought there was a specific amount of money specified.
Not in the movie.
And the wife of the son.
Wife of the son.
Oh, but do they really need that much money? They're not going to be in society. They're not going to have this many servants. They're not going to have a horse and carriage. What do they need that much money for?
dowries. I'm just going to say this right now. She would have made an excellent Soviet apparatchik. The peasants don't need to eat.
The peasants don't need to eat. Isn't that what they're saying currently in real life? The peasants don't need to eat? Okay, I digress. So yeah, about that. This woman has her husband in a chokehold. That man is no longer a man to allow his wife to dictate to him what should and shouldn't be done to his sisters of another marriage. But still, he did not take care of his sisters. He was not obedient to his father's deathbed wishes.
Yeah, the father was rolling in his grave, but then again...
Well, and shame on the father for not putting it in a written will and having a solicitor, a lawyer, make sure that his second wife and daughters were taken care of.
Yeah.
And this seems to be an ongoing theme in Jane Austen's books, and is that because the same thing happened to her and Cassandra? These men are just, And Jane Austen writes bad guys, bad people very well. The narcissism. And I have to wonder, did she write these stories based on people she knew, or was it like loosely based on people she knew? Cheers. Okay, so let's have a little discuss. We are having Earl Grey tea.
There's only one type of tea.
Well, I used to be a very strong supporter for English breakfast tea. But then I found Earl Grey, and just delicious. Now, if you like a weaker tea, you will not like Earl Grey. Actually, if you like a weaker tea, I would recommend white tea. I've had it once and I took it back. I did not care for it. We are having Devonshire cream. The recipe links, I might have to write out some of the recipes, because I will write out the recipes in the description box, because I don't know where I got the recipes. So we are having plain scones. We are having scones with pecans or pecan. And of course the Devonshire cream is actually mock Devonshire cream. I'll put the recipe below. We are having cucumber sandwiches, and I will put that recipe below as well. So yes, about the characters. Now that Mrs. What's her name? Mrs. Dashwood. Mrs. Dashwood should have been a better mother. She should have kept, what's her name? Marianne on a tighter leash. I mean, she just let her go off unchaperoned with Mr. Willoughby. She didn't even know the man. And the only characterization that she got from the neighbor, the man she was renting from, was that
Fine rider.
fine rider, and he liked his hunting dogs and wanted a puppy from him.
Yeah, perfect characterization.
Oh sure, take my daughter. Go into town on your little whatever.
If you're a fine rider and you can breed dogs well. Question. Is this Jane Austen trope, I will use, of the men not taking care of their families and running out of money for their estates, a sign of the problem that really hit in the 1890s with the British estates having to marry the wealthy daughters of the American businessmen.
Too late.
I know that's too late, but were they having the problem? Was this like the beginning of the issue? Did the wealth of the empire keep them running for longer?
I want to say no, because I just think it was bad management.
Fair enough.
Are you living beyond your means?
Possibly. Probably.
And why didn't you set money aside for the dowries of your daughters? Now, in Pride and Prejudice, the father's like, oh, well, I thought we were going to have a son eventually, but then when you realized eventually didn't happen, why weren't you setting money aside for your daughters? That's just bad management.
I mean, there was, what, a decade between the oldest and the youngest? Thereabouts?
I'm not sure it was that far. The oldest was probably 22, and the youngest was 15.
Oh, the oldest was 22?
I think.
Oh. In the movie Pride and Prejudice, they characterized them older, so that's what my thought was, but I guess.
Oh, I don't even know.
But I'm sorry, we're talking about Sense and Sensibility
yes,
here, and I'm throwing it.
But sort of the whole, all of the themes of her books are the father of the family did not set money aside for the daughters, and then what? How were they supposed to survive back then?
Especially in high society.
Well, I don't even think they were in high society. I kind of want to say they were middle class.
No, middle class.
Anyway, so Eleanor is the oldest daughter. I believe she's 17, 19 at the oldest. Marianne was 16, 19 when she gets married to someone. You all know about, okay, spoilers, because there's no way we're going to have this tea without spoilers. So Colonel Brandon, can we discuss the age difference? Ew. Yuck. It's disturbing. Was that normal back then? Yuck.
I think it might have been.
I mean,
a little bit more normal.
It is such a huge age gap. It is like having a father for a husband. Ew. And there's something that, and I think it was Marianne, she's so in love, so infatuated with Willoughby that she says she wants to be his wife and his mother. Am I confusing something? I don't know. But wait a minute. Okay, I just have to say this annotated version is amazing. I know I've already said this. So the story is on one side, the annotations are on the other. It includes a vast amount of pictures, so many pictures. And then it has a chronology at the very end, and it has maps, and it has bibliography, as well as, let me get to it, the maps. Fantastic. I will definitely, obviously, be keeping Marianne, such an ignorant little girl.
Well, speaking on the age difference and Colonel Brandon, I wish to interject with the interesting discussion we had while watching the movie.
Okay.
As to what time period is this book supposed to be happening in?
Yes.
Because it mentioned Colonel Brandon being part of the gentleman with the many dogs, which were adorable. I don't remember his name. The gentleman they were renting the cottage from.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
I don't remember. He spoke of Colonel Brandon being part of the regiment that fought in the Indian subcontinent, or the Eastern subcontinent, or something along those lines, and I'm thinking, oh, India, that general area. what were the British fighting there to involve such a large number of people at that time period? Because in the 1800s, the Regency era, their main conflict was Europe, the continent, with Napoleon. So I was very confused about that because I thought it was Regency era. But then, Arion looked up and discovered that it was not set in Regency era, and it was actually set in the 1780s?
Yeah, I forget, but the dress, the costuming for the movie put it in the Regency era. But the storyline, because of Colonel Brandon, it didn't
match
up. It was odd.
And so that was a great deal of confusion because the man would have been in his early teens, 20s, maybe younger, depending on what part of the army he was.
Right, because aren't you allowed to join when you're about 9 or 12 or some ridiculously young age?
Yeah, for a drummer boy or something like that. But he got to colonel, which I assume takes quite a long time, especially in the British Army, pre-reformations.
Well, I'm thinking too, in order to get to that status, that level, didn't you have to be an aristocratic family?
Yeah, which he was, so.
Oh, okay.
So he probably wasn't brought in
That
as a
really, I'm sorry, that really isn't talked about, I don't think, unless I just completely missed it.
I don't remember anything about it. So that confused us greatly because if it was to take place in the Regency era and he fought on the Indian subcontinent during the 7 Years' War, as I believe it's called outside of the Americas, it's the French and Indian War here, he would have been in his 80s, which would have been
way too old.
Which would have been a little even more disturbing, and he wasn't characterized that old. So
right.
All the timeline makes sense. It was set in the late 1700s, more or less.
I think he's about 35 years old. But to be attracted to a 16-year-old?
That's weird. That's weird.
Yes, let's clear our palate on that one. Okay, so let's talk about Eleanor, the oldest one, who shoves down her feelings and emotions and what has kind of transpired between her and Edward because of Marianne's drama. And Marianne claims that Eleanor has no feelings. She's almost the mother.
Yeah. She is the mother.
She is the one that kind of takes all of the responsibilities of the household, making the serious decisions, budgeting.
She was the one who budgeted. She was the one who found the cottage, more or less.
I forget how it is in the book.
She was the one who put the effort into finding the cottage.
Yeah, so it just, where was the mother?
Crying.
The mother just, okay, so, and the mother and Marianne get along so well because they are similar in personalities. When you were younger and we had watched Sense and Sensibility, you liked the youngest, Margaret,
Yes.
the best. How come?
She's the one who knew how to enjoy life.
Hmm.
She also made the greatest transition, all things considered.
I thought that you liked her the best because she was adventurous and she was a tomboy and she was intelligent.
That definitely helped things.
How was she so... I think that Eleanor and Margaret were more similar to each other, and then Marianne was more like her mom.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a detriment, but it benefits her in the end to marry Colonel Brandon, who is so much older than her.
Because she needs those decades of experience just to keep her in line.
Yeah. I think that if she had married Willoughby, it would have been a disaster because he would have fallen out of love with her and been a philanderer. They would be poor because none of them would have any money. So let's talk about... go ahead.
Well, he supposedly had money.
Well,
he lost it to gambling debts.
Yeah,
So,
he was very careless.
Which is why the marriage with the £50,000 was most fortuitous.
Yeah, so I calculated how much £50,000 of that era's money would be for today, and it would be well over $4 million.
That's a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
It would buy you...
What are you trying to calculate?
Well, I know it would buy you a yacht, but I don't think it'll get you a Black Hawk helicopter.
How much are Black Hawk? Do you know how to fly a Black Hawk helicopter?
No.
Why would you want to buy one?
Maybe you want to learn. I don't know. You got $4 million. People do weird things when they have money.
That's true. Very true. People do weird things. Okay, so let's talk about Eleanor and Edward.
Weirdest relationship I can think off the top of my head.
Edward. So, I think Jane Austen tries to write him as being very shy and awkward. Very much like Darcy supposedly was in Pride and Prejudice. Quite frankly, I just think Darcy is a narcissist, but I seem to be in the minority on that one.
Darcy, while he may have been shy, he covered it all.
Or just arrogant.
He definitely covered it all in arrogance.
Why was his sister so controlling? Like the mom, she doesn't make an appearance in the movie, but she makes a small appearance in the book. The sister, is it just because Edward is the oldest and they have such high hopes for him? And then the mother dangles his inheritance over him. You have to be what I want you to be, otherwise you aren't getting the inheritance. And then it backfires on them, the mother and the sister.
Yeah. Because he does eventually say, sayonara.
Mm-hmm. And the younger brother who gets the inheritance ends up marrying a woman less attractive, and I don't mean that in the looks way, but in society as well, less attractive than Eleanor. Oh, Jane Austen's sense of humor. Yeah. It's very comical. There's a lot that happens.
But nothing.
And yeah, and nothing. And yet nothing happens. I mean, why is it that there always seems to be, so compared to Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, Jane got sick and had to stay at Bingley's home. And then Marianne gets sick and kind of makes everybody in the family leave the household. I forget which family it was. I'll put the information. And technically, Colonel Brandon is not supposed to stay because it's the host and hostess have left to save their baby from the illness that Marianne caught, which happened differently in the movie. There were some eye roll moments, like, really, Jane Austen? That's a little over the top on that one.
Well, if one is going to make a pound cake with more sugar than it needs, one might as well add the frosting and the sprinkles as well.
Okay.
You're already going to go into a diabetic shock. Might as well make it taste absolutely delicious while you do it.
Did you have a favorite part in the movie?
It was, what's the youngest name?
Margaret.
Margaret. It was either the point where Margaret was sword fighting and had the perfectly legal stabbing, or it was when that younger woman who was engaged with Edward told the sister, and the sister's reaction.
Lucy Steele. Did you trust her? Kind of felt to me like she knew that Eleanor and
Yeah.
Edward liked each other. Like, they had ulterior motives.
Yeah. And so she just... It almost seemed like she created an entire story. I was half questioning whether or not the thing was real, the engagement was real or not, if she just came up with it.
Right.
So no, I did not trust her.
Yeah, I didn't trust her either. I didn't care for her. I didn't care for her at all. But she's the least of the people that I disliked in the story. Now, who did you dislike the most?
Probably the sister-in-law.
Interesting.
Because she held the most authority.
Right.
She had the most
power, yeah.
She had the most influence. She changed...
over so many of the characters.
Yeah. She changed the most. Well, she didn't change. She manipulated the most. She held most of the pieces, most of the cards.
Yeah.
And what she didn't control, her mother took care of.
Right.
While she didn't have quite control over the mother, they understood each other.
Yeah. Because I think most people would say, oh, Willoughby was so wicked and bad and this and that. And Edward wasn't completely upstanding either.
No.
But...
Willoughby was just a gambling.
No, he completely played. He's a player. He played Marianne.
Yeah, he's a gambler. But...
Okay, here's the seriousness of it. I mean, if you've got it, if you're a player in today's time...
It's not a big deal.
It is a big deal, but in the Regency era, it was extremely big. Okay, so he could have ruined her... What's the matter, Ben?
Debating whether or not I put sugar in here.
No, you did not. I just filled you up.
Thank you.
He played with her emotions. He... could have ruined her reputation.
And you just don't rebuild those things.
And time is of the essence. Because in those days you had a small window of time where you could get married and then have your children, raise your children properly, hopefully, not how she was raised. And hopefully with Colonel Brandon, they did have offspring that were raised better, since he had a solid head on his shoulders.
And he technically already had... No, never mind.
No, he didn't. That was the rumor.
Yeah,
the rumor that he had a love child. I wonder if he was aware that that rumor was going around about him.
Who knows. The sister-in-law.
I agree. And who is your favorite character? Margaret. I don't think I have a favorite.
It's hard.
In the movie, it's Margaret. I like that Colonel Brandon is an upstanding man, but the age difference
It's a little disconcerting.
It's like Emma too. The age difference, just ooky. And I agree with you on the best of the antagonists would be Mrs. Dashwood of the Sun. Because, wow, what a piece of work she is. Was there anything else you wanted to add about Sense and Sensibility?
No.
I liked it. I will keep it because it's part of my annotation versions, so I will have it over there. And I need to read Northanger Abbey, which will probably happen next year. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you had an enjoyable time. Have some tea and have a great day. Bye.